When we do a hypothesis test, the last step is to write our conclusion and address the original claim. So how you word the conclusion kind of depends on two things. The first thing being whether the original claim is the null hypothesis or the alternative hypothesis. And the second thing is if the null hypothesis is rejected or not rejected. So what decision do we make about the null hypothesis? That's the second factor. So we can follow this flow chart to help us with the wording. There are four ways to word the final conclusion. You'll see that as the four green boxes on the bottom. On the right-hand side here, we will take a look at this side of the flowchart in example 1, where the original claim contains the equality symbol. And then in example 2, we'll take a look at the left side of this flowchart where the original claim does not contain the equality sign. So that means it contains either the not equal sign, less than, or greater than sign. Okay. Let's take a look at how we would word the final conclusion if we were doing a hypothesis test where our significance level is 5% or 0.05, and we are testing a claim about a mean value where that mean value represents the average weight gain. And I'm talking about freshman students living on campus, okay? All right, so we are going to test the claim that freshman students gain 15 pounds. So this is the original, or excuse me, this is the original claim. So since it contains equality, I'm going to write it in the null hypothesis. So I'm going to keep track here that this is the original claim. So the alternative hypothesis would be that mu is not 15 pounds, okay? Now, let's suppose we go through the whole process of doing the hypothesis test. So we get the test statistic and the p-value. And it turns out that the test statistic falls in the critical region and the p-value is less than the significance value. So I'm just going to use the p-value method here, but you can also use the critical value method to make a decision about the null hypothesis. So in this scenario, the p-value is less than our significance level of 0.05. So in any situation where the p-value is less than the significance value, we always make the conclusion to reject the null hypothesis, okay? So what does it mean to reject the null hypothesis? Let me go back up to the hypotheses up at the top. We are going to reject that the mean average weight gain is 15 pounds. So we're rejecting this. What does that mean? So that means that there is that means that there is sufficient evidence to warrant rejection of the claim that, and notice I'm just restating the original claim, freshman students gain 15 pounds. Now let's take a look at scenario B. So same claim, we're testing the claim that freshman students gain 15 pounds. So again, that's the null hypothesis. Let me just rewrite it again. Keeping track that this is the original claim, it's in the null hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis that mu is not equal to 15. Okay, but in scenario B, we're going to suppose that after we go through the whole hypothesis test and get the test statistic and the p-value, the test statistic does not fall in the critical region and the p-value is greater than. So I'm going to use the p-value method again, but you can also use the critical value method here and it'll give you the same results. But here the p-value is greater than our significance level of 0.05. So anytime that you use the p-value method and the p-value is greater than the significance level, we always fail to reject the null hypothesis. All right, so let's go back to our two hypotheses here. This time we are failing to reject H naught. Okay, so what does that mean? This means that there is not sufficient evidence to warrant rejection of the claim that freshman students gain 15 pounds. Okay, let's take a look at example 2. We're going to use the same significance level. So we're going to test the claim at a significance level of 0.05 or 5%. But this time, we're going to test the claim that freshman students gained less than 15 pounds. So in this situation, the original claim does not contain equality. The original claim has the less than symbol. So that is going to be the alternative hypothesis, which is different from example 1. So notice this time the original claim is not the null hypothesis, it's the alternative hypothesis. But the null hypothesis is going to be that mu is 15 pounds. And then again, let's suppose that you went through the whole process of doing a hypothesis test. We get our test statistic and we get the p-value. And it turns out that the test statistic, let's say it falls in the critical region and the p-value is less than the significance value. So I'm going to use the p-value method here to make a decision about the null hypothesis, but if you use the critical value method, you'll get the same conclusion. So here, let's assume that the p-value is less than our significance level. So anytime that that happens using the p-value method, we always reject the null hypothesis. So what does it mean to reject the null hypothesis? It means up here, we are going to reject the null hypothesis claim that the mean or the average weight gain is 15 pounds. So how do we word this in the conclusion? In the conclusion, we would word this as there is sufficient evidence to support the claim, and then I'm going to restate the claim. So support the claim that freshman students gain 15 pounds, or excuse me, gain less than 15 pounds. And if you stop for a second and think about this kind of makes sense, okay? Since we're rejecting the null hypothesis, so we're rejecting the null hypothesis that the average weight gain is 15 pounds, therefore, the sample data must support the other hypothesis, which is also the original claim. So that's why we would say that our evidence supports, you can say the original claim, which is freshman students gain less than 15 pounds, okay? All right, let's take a look at the same claim. But this time, let's suppose that in scenario B, we get the test statistic and the p-value, but this time the test statistic does not fall in the critical region and the p-value is greater than the significance level. So first of all, let's go ahead and write our null and alternative hypothesis. So the null hypothesis is still the same, mu equals 15 pounds. The alternative hypothesis is also the same, mu less than 15 pounds. Again, keep track that this is the original claim. I'm going to use the p-value method here. So in this scenario B, we say that the p-value this time is greater than the significance level. So anytime that happens, then the decision that we make about the null hypothesis is we fail to reject. So fail to reject the null hypothesis. Okay, what does that mean? That means that up here we fail to reject that the mean weight gain is 15 pounds. So that means that there is a chance that it's 15 pounds. It's just that our data, right, does not support that mu is less than 15 pounds. So to word our final conclusion here, we would say that there is not sufficient evidence to support the claim. Not sufficient evidence to support the claim. And then again, rewrite the original claim that freshman students gain less than 15 pounds. And again, if you stop and think about this for a second, it makes a lot of sense, right? We're testing the claim that freshman students gain less than 15 pounds, but the results of our study say that we should fail to reject the null hypothesis, meaning that this is still a possible value for mu. So our evidence does not support the alternative, which also happens to be the original claim. So we say there is not sufficient evidence to support that original claim.